Hi guys, I'm Mama Bear to Many. I am mom to 15 children. Yes, really 15 children. And so there's a lot of new people here and they're coming in like kind of in the middle of our story. So I thought that I would just share and update whoever hasn't seen stuff to know who exactly I am and where the journey came from and where it's going from here. So that's what we're going to talk about today. Okay, so I am mom to 15 children. My oldest son is married. Him and his wife have a house and are living their own life, but we enjoy visiting them whenever we possibly can. And then my next son down, he's forever 23. He was 23 years old and he passed away. I have that journey of like his passing in a label of Bobby's Journey Home. And so, or Bobby's Heavenly Journey, I think it is. Yeah, something like that. And that tells the story of what happened and such. He had Duchenne's muscular dystrophy. And in the end days of his life, some things just went really bad. And so I could choose to be like angry and bitter with some of the medical things that happen. Some people suggested that I sue people or, yeah. So it was that kind of situation. If you want the details of that, make sure you check that out. So that was our next sundown. And then I have a daughter who is 23. She is still at home, a daughter who is 22 and 20. I realized that I started tea and I didn't actually have the tea on, so that is that sound there. Okay, so then I have a son who's 18. Those are my adult children and they all are staying at home. They all have their own lives and things that they do and friends that they visit, and they have their own journeys of their own. I don't share huge parts of their journey because this isn't their channel and that's up to them to share if they want to share or not. I get questions a lot of times like, oh, your children don't have a life, whatever, but honestly, that's their journey. They don't need to say, hey, these are my friends, this is my job, this is my career, this is how much schooling I went through. That's totally up to them what they want to do. And so those are my adult children. And then my younger children, I have a daughter who is 16. I have a son who just turned 15. We just had a bunch of birthdays. Just turned 15. Oh my goodness, I can't believe they're getting so old. A daughter who is 13. So yes, that makes 4 teenagers for us. And we had 4 teenagers for many years. I think we've always had 4 teenagers. That's what it feels like. But for a lot of years, we've had 4 teenagers, and I love teenagers. I do. I know there's like such a bad rap about like young adults and teenagers, but I really love them. A lot of times, I think sometimes it's just like they're trying to express themselves, and they're not quite sure how the appropriate way to express themselves is. And it's a journey. We all learn from our wins and we learn from our mistakes, right? So that's just kind of what they're doing. So those are my teenagers. And then I have a 10-year-old. I have a 9-year-old. I have a 7-year-old. Okay, so my 7-year-old and my 16-year-old both have type 1 diabetes. My 7-year-old was diagnosed when she was 5, and my 16-year-old was just diagnosed in January of this year. So my 7-year-old, my 4-year-old, and my baby's gonna be 3 this month. Yes, but that's not my baby. So she is 3 years old, and my baby is 6 months old. So my baby is he has trisomy 18, and we were in the NICU for over 5 months at Boston Children's Hospital. We picked up everything we knew, and we moved to Boston. Well, we moved to Boston and a bunch of other places. So originally, I'm going to tell you, originally when I started this channel, my son, who had passed away, he had suggested before that maybe I shared with other people some skills that I knew that were homesteading skills. We have a home with 36 acres, and we were producing a huge amount of our own food. We have very large gardens. I forget last year, I mean, we put up well over 1,000 quarts or 1,000 jars of food last year for our family. We put a ton of meat in the freezer for our family. So we were really doing the thing, right? We were really doing the homesteading thing. I'm gonna grab my tea and I'll be right back. By the way, yes, I'm in a hotel. Why am I in a hotel? I'm gonna share that as well. So we were doing it. I was cooking and cleaning and homesteading and homeschooling and doing all the things, and gardening and tending to animals and driving the tractor. We were doing that, right? My son, so a few years before I had a health issue, and that was really challenging for me. In the hospital, I was hemorrhaging, and they were going to send me home hemorrhaging, and I refused to leave. And they ended up life flighting me to the city hospital, and things were taken care of there. I needed an emergency surgery, and things were taken care of there. I actually had repercussions from that for 6 months later. I needed to get like iron infusions, and I had lost so much blood, right? And so things are not handled appropriately. What happens sometimes in rural areas is fresh students can get almost like a stipend on their student loans in order to be like in this area. So sometimes that happens, and that means that you have people that maybe are going to be great people and great doctors. Maybe they don't know the people. Maybe they don't have a lot of years of experience. A lot of stuff like that goes on, sadly. And sadly, sometimes there's not a bed. So in a small country hospital, if the person needs to get shipped to a larger city hospital, they may be waiting for a bed for a while. And that's really a sad state of affairs. But that's how it is, unfortunately. So that's how it was. But it didn't used to be like that. The hospital that was closer to us was a bigger hospital. It had more services. Most people could do things locally. I could have got lots of things done locally when we first moved up there. So we were up there, we were doing our thing. That was the first thing that was kind of like, oh, this really just stinks. All of my son's doctors, they started being in this localish area, and then they started moving to the city hospital. The city hospital was 2 hours away, or is 2 hours away from the Homestead, and so we just made lots of trips there, and then we made a day of it. We had fun going on adventures and stuff around the city. So yeah, then my son passed away. You'll have to watch like the journey homeward. Just things, lots of things happened. There was a lot of medical issues around that. After that happened, my husband and I, another thing living in a really small area is there's very small churches. When we first moved up here, we both weren't Christians. And so we didn't realize like that we really wanted that community. We really wanted a good church to go to on Sundays. There are some churches, but most of the people are 60 plus going to the churches. Not lots of families going to churches. It's kind of sad, like for fellowship with other people. I tried to link up with some other homeschoolers, because actually quite a few people homeschool. And I used to do homeschool group for years. I used to have people in the house and we'd have homeschool group, and it's just dwindled out. People want to do like their own thing. They don't want to do field trips. They don't want to do all the things. So it's really challenging. It's challenging to get solid relationships, solid friendships, and that's for adults and that's for children as well, just because of those dynamics. When COVID hit, I shouldn't say that word, when that hit, it was just like, then nobody was very boxy, and I think that happened in a lot of communities, right? So that was even more challenging, I feel. So all that kind of stuff happened, and very interesting, there's a little kitchen behind me and there's one spoon in there. Good thing I don't, good thing I don't have my family here eating soup. Okay, and so we were thinking at that point, after my son passed away and had a really bad experience with the doctors and hospitals there, and then the lack of friendships. And we decided to branch out, and we took the kids on a retreat for large families. No, not some culty type thing, no. It was all different types of religions. Everyone just happens to have big families, and we went there so we could do some like homeschooling type stuff, so it was lots of homeschoolers. And we visited some awesome places, like we went to Jamestown and Colonial Williamsburg, and we did some really cool things, and it was super fun. And at this place, they had stuff for kids of all ages all throughout the week. They had old-fashioned tea parties. They did dancing quite a few times during the week, like old ballroom dancing, or they just taught the kids like how to do like all these different fun, not ballroom dancing, all these types of fun, like traditional old school like dancing, and they taught everyone. It was moms and dads and little kids and teenagers and, you know, young adults, whatever, whoever it was, everyone got to dance. And then at the end of the week, they got to dance at Colonial Williamsburg on the green, and that was so fun, guys, so fun. And so having that opportunity and talking to so many families really made us think, geesh, you know, we could live in a place that our kids could have better opportunity. And yes, I love our home. Yes, I love our homestead. It is beautiful. Like, it's beautiful to be able to grow your own food. It's a blessing to be able to do that. But there's also something to be said in fellowship. And so we kind of had it in our head. So we started looking, we asked the older kids to start looking for different areas that might be of interest, different churches that might be of interest. And we just started looking around. Then we decided, because it was an election year, we weren't quite sure, because I had gotten rid of some animals right after my son passed away. I was in charge of like the farming aspect. My husband works full-time. We don't like make a living off of the farm. So I was in charge of most of the things having to do with the homestead. So I decided that we would scale back after his death, because he passed away in February, and I had a baby in April, which is my 3-year-old, or gonna be 3-year-old. So he passed away, there was 6 weeks, and then I had my daughter, and then 6 weeks after that we buried him. And because in Maine you can't, this might be in other places too, I don't know, but you can't like bury somebody in the middle of winter. You have to like kind of hold the body and then bury them. So we decided to bury him on his birthday. And then we wanted to commemorate that with doing something fun each year on his birthday, something that he would enjoy. I know, sugar. My diet and everything has been absolutely horrendous. Horrendous, guys. Look at the eczema on my hands. Can you see it? Horrible. Yes, so that was that. I gotta find a napkin. Oh, there is a napkin there. Hold on. So we decided to hold off on that. It was an election year, which is this past year. We decided that we would start to build up the farm a little bit, and then maybe we would take some trips. So every time my husband had his vacations, we planned on visiting a few key places that we were interested in, and that we would take kind of like a 5-year plan, right? But you know, when you make plans and God has other plans, you gotta go with God's plan. So we had this plan that we were going to do some different trips in order to see where we really wanted to settle. We didn't do that before we moved to our house, and I'm very thankful that we did that, that we moved to our house, but hindsight, we would have probably wanted to visit some places beforehand. So we had this plan of doing whatever. So then I found out that I was pregnant with my son, who is the son who's in the hospital. So I found out at 20 weeks, I shared his journey all throughout. So I was sharing different cooking things and just what we did as homeschooling, large family. That was like my channel. That's what I was doing. Grocery hauls and all the fun things. So I was sharing that. And then I shared my pregnancy because we were excited. We were having another baby. And then after I had a 20-week scan, and it was weird because my daughter, who has diabetes, we were trying to settle her out, and my first daughter, my 7-year-old, now 7-year-old, we're trying to figure out some things. She was struggling with like her numbers, and my husband was going to come in with me, but they wouldn't let my daughter sit with my daughter with diabetes. It was just this weird rule. I don't know if it's still there or not. Anyhow, it became like an issue. And if you watch the baby number 15 videos, you'll see the whole struggle around that. And so I found out at 20 weeks alone that there was something wrong with my baby. At first, I could tell something was wrong with the heart just because they were going around it a lot. So there were a lot of things that they thought were wrong. And it was overwhelming. I was like, I already love my baby. My baby was I was 20 weeks along. I love my little baby. He or she was like fearfully and wonderfully made, and God gave me that baby in my womb, and I felt so blessed by that. So I was taken into a room with a screen, and 3 times in the one day that I found out there was something wrong. We didn't even know for sure what was wrong with the baby. I had no blood tests, anything like that. They're just saying because of the pictures, they think that the baby they didn't even tell me the name of the condition, a congenital, no, not congenital. What word am I looking for, guys? Not congenital. Anyway, had it genetic. No, not genetic. They thought he had one of the trisomies, probably. There's tons of different trisomies now that I've learned it. But so I was like, okay, so my baby's gonna have Down syndrome. That's okay. They have the best smile ever. Have you ever seen somebody with Down syndrome smile? Like, there's no holding back. They're just gonna smile with their whole body, and and so he can bring light to somebody, or he or she could bring light to somebody's life, right? And then they're telling me that it was I was gonna lose the baby, and it would be a lot kinder for me just to have an abortion that day. Hadn't talked to my husband, hadn't shared with anyone what was going on, but it was kinder. It was going to happen anyway. It would be better for my body to do that now rather than waiting, whatever, and they could do it. It's a medical condition, whatever. And I was like, no. And they're like, so then they send me to somebody else, try to tell me the same hoopla all over again. And I'm like, Now I'm thinking in my brain, I hadn't researched this before. I'm thinking in my brain, okay, like, so if I was thinking I was gonna like lose the baby in utero, so I was asking questions like, okay, like when I go into labor, what do I do? Because I'm thinking that I'm going to, or like when I go to lose the baby and I start having contractions, what do I do? Or what happens like if I go to an ultrasound and the baby is dead, like, and you go to induce me, what does that look like? Can I get an epidural? I was asking those types of questions because they gave me no hope that the baby would even be born, let alone be born alive. They were saying that the baby was going to die before I even got to term. So I'm asking all these questions that I think are reasonable questions. I mean, if you knew that you were, or you thought you knew that you were going to give birth to a stillborn baby, then wouldn't you like wonder and ask questions around that? So I asked those questions. They sent me home. I told my kids, guys, I totally regret this. I told my kids that I was going to lose the baby. My poor kids just lost their brother. It hadn't even been 2 years. Yeah, it had been 2 years. Just over 2 years. So February, and I found this out in June. Yeah. I deeply regret that. I didn't know the difference. I only talked to the doctors. Nobody said to me that day, there's a chance that your baby might go to term, that your baby could be born living, that your baby might have a chance. Nobody told me that. They only told me that my baby is going to die in utero. So then I had an appointment with my normal midwife. And I had an appointment with her, and I also had other ultrasounds. So she was really sweet. I wish I could say her name. I would say her name because she was really sweet. And she knew my heart. She knew my heart in all of this. And my heart was, I don't care what has to what's going to happen. I'm going to love this baby every single day that the Lord gives me. And if that's never to look at his or her face, I'm still going to love this baby every day. All the miscarriages, I loved that baby until the Lord took it home. So that was my goal. I'm going to love this baby. So she said, okay, we won't talk about abortion anymore. Let's give, we're going to do 2 ultrasounds a week. I'm going to have you do the blood. She's like, nothing's definitive. So I had blood work. I had blood drawn like that day of all the things. No, maybe it was like 2 days later. I don't know. You'd have to go back and watch the videos. Anyway, I had blood work drawn and they said, yes, it looked like trisomy 18. So at that first ultrasound, I was trying to figure out how they even knew that it was trisomy 18. So they said that there was no genitals or ambiguous genitals, and there was cysts on the brain, something wrong with the heart, and the intestines were on the outside and not the inside. And the hands were clenched. Okay. Here we go through pregnancy, all the things, getting close to 37 weeks. My last baby, who's 2 at that time, was born in an hour and a half at home. I did not want to be driving to the hospital giving birth to a stillborn baby. I didn't want to be alone or have, at that point, like my children were bringing me back and forth lots of times, have one of my children to have to be part of that. So we decided we were going to get induced. I also called, I'm used to having home birth midwives, so I also called my home birth midwife, and I kind of got her opinion on things and such. So we decided that we would make, let's make lemon lemonade out of lemons. So we decided that we were going to make it a fun week, 2 weeks actually, and we were going to camp, because it's September now. We were going to camp close to the hospital. There's a campground there. So we're going to have fun, enjoy our time together, and camp there, and then it would be safe. The kids would go home, and I would stay in the NICU with the baby. I had visited the NICU. The NICU told me that we would be all set to deliver there, and then if the baby needed immediate services for heart, then he would be flown to Boston. So I was like, okay, that sounds like a good plan. They could handle, most of the stuff. If it was a heart thing, then whatever. So I was still having my bi-weekly ultrasounds. In that last week, they told me, okay, you are going to, they told me that he had a diaphragmatic hernia. And so she's like, well, let's see if we can get in. I needed an MRI, pregnant MRI. And we're going to do that at Maine Med. And I was like, okay, but they didn't have an appointment for like quite a few weeks later. And so she was like, let me see if they have one at Boston Children's. So she was setting me up for an MRI at Boston Children's. And then I was having like these weird contractions. And then she's like, you know what? If you want your chance to have your baby a chance, any chance of survival, you need to go to Boston. So we came to Boston. And I was having contractions the night before, and I was texting another mom, a very large family mom. And I was texting her, I'm like, I hate that this is my 15th baby, and I don't know if I'm in labor, those types of conversations. And if you're a large family mom, you have probably been there before too. So I'm like, I don't know if I'm in labor. And she's like, I would not take my chances. I would start driving to Boston. So at like 4:00 in the morning, I was like, poke, poke, poke. We're camping. We're in a tent, guys, in a tent. And I'm like, I think we should probably head to Boston now. My husband, he is patient. He's not super patient, but with me, he's like, okay, okay. Anyway, I think guys are like that. So on the way to Boston, I started getting like consistent contractions. So I'm calling on the phone on the way to Boston, and I'm like, is there any way that I can be seen? Blah, 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 blah. I filled out all the information. They told me just come into the hospital, whatever. I get there. They have no clue, whatever. Oh my goodness. It was like so shocking. There was so much traffic. We couldn't even pull into they couldn't pull into Brigham and Women's Hospital. Everyone's like, honk, honk, honk. We're like, wait, we're from the country. I can't do this. And it was just like crazy. It was so much like stimulation. Like, I think it would be the same as if like somebody was like suburb or city person and you like literally like pick them up and like drop them in the middle of the woods. I think you'd be panicky, like, oh, there's a bear. I know there's a bear. That shadow, it's a bear. For me, it was like, oh my goodness, there's so much. And it's just like, so like all this honking. And it's like the smell of, what is that smell? I don't even know. It's like a concoction of like perfume and cigarettes and smoke and cigars and pot and who the heck knows what else. Poop. I don't know, but it was very overwhelming to like all the senses. It's like sensory overload. So anyway, they saw me that day. My contractions slowed up. So they said, okay, we're going to do an MRI the next day, yada, yada, yada. Anyway, I delivered the most beautiful baby boy about a week later. Was it a week later? Maybe not. Maybe it's like 5 days. Might have to go back and look. Mom memory. Anyway, I delivered a sweet little baby boy. Aw, he came out and they held him up like this. I had natural delivery. Well, I had an epidural. It's the first time I ever had an epidural, but I was afraid that I was going to need a C-section. And if I needed to have a C-section because of his health, then I would have a C-section, but I didn't want to be like totally knocked out because I wanted to see his face, right? Like, what if I never saw his face again? So I held him up. He was just so freaking perfect. Me and my husband both, like, it was like almost like a video, right? Like, we both like reached for like his face, and then he got whisked off. But it's like, I'll never forget like his little face, and I just put my hand like on him, and I saw my husband's hand like come over. Oh, so beautiful. So they whisk him away, and then it's like mentally, like I'm sitting there, why do they have you lay on your back with your legs in the air? So stinking ridiculous. I had not had babies in the hospital for like ever ago because I had a lot of home births, and I'm like, good golly, this is just like some stupid like fake movie that somebody's like panting, like, I gotta push. I couldn't see what was going on, but I could see my husband's face, and I could see my husband's face was in so much pain, and I'm like, just take a picture of him. And he wouldn't take a picture, and I'm like, just take a picture of him. And he wouldn't take a picture because he's like, I didn't want you to see him like that. So then they whisked him away. Actually, they brought him over to me for a second as they were like, had the mask on. They were pumping oxygen into him. It's been a long journey, guys. So, if you want to see the rest of that video, you'll have to go and see the series of videos that I have done for baby number 15, because I've gone into details about each step. Rejoice with me, cry with me, get angry with me. Anyhow, that's that. We are still at Boston Children's Hospital. He is just over 6 months old. He has had a full cardiac repair. He has had an ETV surgery. He has had G-tube surgery, and now he just had a shunt. We're almost ready for home, guys. We are almost ready for home. We need a sleep study, then we can go home. Hopefully. It's been a long journey, guys. Anyway, now what is going on with everyone else? So, for a while, what happened was, this is the homestead. We lived on a homestead. We went camping. Then the whole family, while my husband had his 6 weeks off from work, went to Cape Cod, Massachusetts. So they were staying at a beach house on the Cape. Then, and isn't it funny how the Lord has provided every single thing every single time? I think it's amazing. Sometimes I'm like, how are we going to pay for that? And all of a sudden, there it is. So, yes, on the Cape. So I went to the Cape. Everyone was on the Cape. Now we're starting to get it to a point where my husband has to go back to work. And that is the answer to, lots of people are asking questions. How are you paying for this? Because my husband works. Go figure. I don't know what people think. Like, most people in this world, they go to work, right? Like, anyhow, my husband had to go back to work. 6 weeks off, then go to work. So he had to go back to work. Now, his boss, the company he works for, his HR lady is wonderful. So about 2 weeks before he had to go back to work, he called. He said he was still down here. She said, would you like for me to try to find you a place, like a place to work down there? My husband's like, yes, I guess, if you can. And she said, okay. She did. So she found him a temporary place to work down here. We didn't know what we were doing. At that time, we still had all these animals. We still had all the things, guys, all the things. Around Christmas time, right before Christmas in December, we decided that no matter what, we needed to get rid of the animals. They weren't being cared for appropriately with who was taking care of them. And so we decided that it would be best for us to get rid of the animals. So we knew it would be difficult to try to sell the animals individually. So we made some different things and we put some in the freezer, and then we were animalists. And so we did that in December. Yeah. And what we ended up doing, okay, so Cape House, during the time before that, we needed to find another rental because we realized this is going to be a longer journey. We knew that he was going to need the heart surgery, and we didn't know when he was going to need the heart surgery. So we were being prepared for whenever that was. So we decided to do a 6-month rental in southern Maine, which is Ogunquit. So we stayed there, or we rented out for 6 months there. And so that's what we did. We rented it out. We weren't quite sure what we were doing. And then we realized as time went on and we were praying over things, it just felt right to change things up a little bit. Oh, in this whole thing, when we moved, right before we moved off of the Cape, we were able to have some people at Ronald McDonald House, which was a blessing because then those are the people that I got to see. So we were rotating children on a weekly basis on my husband's days off to go to Ronald McDonald House, and then I would go to Ronald McDonald House so I could see the kids, and then back and forth and back and forth, rotating people on a weekly basis. And that's how we did it all winter, rotating back and forth all winter long. Good thing is I got to take them to some really cool things. Boston's like has some pretty amazing history in it. If you want to see any of those adventures, I have a series called Large Family Adventures, and those would be on that. So there's a playlist that says that. And we did like Boston Children's Museum, we did the aquarium, bunch of places, bunch of things. So that was that. And we decided, we decided that we were going to we were trying to decide if we were going to move out of state to a more affordable place to live, or if we were going to stay in state or in the area that his home base would be at Boston Children's. We wanted a place that we could afford to be near a city hospital that would care for trisomy 18 children, which a lot of hospitals will not. So that was important for us. If you do not know this, they think that trisomy 18 is not compatible with life, or that's what a lot of people have been trained. So, little side rabbit trail over here. Just think of Down syndrome. Think of trisomy 21, which is Down syndrome. Years ago, that would have been considered incompatible with life. But because of so many different things, advancements in medicine, and, we have a different outlook. We see them as children instead of seeing them as, or most people see them as children. I mean, there's the weird people, but most people see them as beautiful children. I see them as beautiful children. So lots of people in the community of trisomy 18 or trisomy 13 are just like, we just want you to care for our babies just like they were babies without saying trisomy 18. So if there's a heart condition, then please do surgery on my child because he has a heart condition. If your child was born with a heart defect, like you would expect that they would, like, because they have the ability to do heart surgery, that they would do heart surgery on your child, right? So that's kind of what we're asking, like, as the rare trisomy type community, is that you'll look at the child in pieces, and if those things can be fixed, then if you could please fix them like your child was normal, just having those conditions. So there are some hospitals that do that. And that's wonderful. And Boston is one of those hospitals. They look at each component that needs to be worked on, it gets worked on, and then they talk about things. So, and that's like, they understand, and there's certain things like, hey, this is traditional or normal for trisomy 18, that's fine. But overall, like, they're saying, okay, this can happen with trisomy 18, but at the same time, this is the condition, and this is what we would plan to do with any other baby, so let's do it for yours, which is wonderful. So we are looking for a place that would do that. And we were thinking about possibly moving far. And then I said to my husband one day, it was really like heavy on my heart. You know, if you're a Christian, I think sometimes those heavy things on your heart are really God's way of talking to you. And so it was really heavy on my heart that I should ask my husband if he could ask his boss if there would be any pay difference if he were to take the position, because a position, actually a full-time position, opened up the place that he was working as a temporary person. And so he's like, okay, I'll ask. And the Lord just worked it out. The Lord worked out the amount of pay. The Lord worked out the timing. He worked it out. And he didn't even have to, normally they have to like fill out an application and do this type of stuff. And she's like, I talked to my boss and I got you this position, and this is the pay raise that you will receive. And we're like, what? Thank you, Lord. Thank you. Like, he took that like burden right off. So then after he got the position and we knew that we were going to stay in that greater area, we were looking around and I was like, oh my goodness, even with the pay raise, I don't know how we're going to be able to afford housing here. It's expensive. And it is expensive. I put a budget. And then I was like, I think I'm going to have to go higher in my budget because I don't know. What I was seeing was small apartments or apartments, maybe a duplex, maybe a 2-story. Most people are not going to want 15 people living on a second floor above them. I probably wouldn't either. It's not that I wouldn't, but I do understand that they make noise, right? Like 15 people walking around, people are walking on the ground, right? So my husband kept sending me like, what about this? What about this? What about this? And finally I was like, hun, I am so overwhelmed with everything that's going on with him medically and all these other things that are going on. I just can't right now. We have this rental until the end of April. Let's just like chill and not look at anything. And he's like, okay, that's fine. I said, just give it a month. Like, let's just, in a month, we can reevaluate and start looking again and then see what we need to do. I mean, I was kind of thinking like, if we need to, we could buy like maybe a camper and stay like at a campground for 6 months and then evaluate 6 months later. I don't really know what this is going to look like. So he's like, okay. I said that. And then like 2 days later, I don't even know how this came up, but it came up, this house, and I was like, that's interesting. Actually, I was watching, it might have been on one of my videos. I think it was. Most of the time I go through the, it's called YouTube Studio, and that's how I answer my comments, but it was acting weird, and so for a while I had to like actually go on the video and then like look underneath. Well, my video is playing as I'm like commenting to you guys, and there was like a thing for Redfin, which I had never heard of. And so I like downloaded the Redfin app, and I was like, oh, this is kind of cool. Like you could like Google like a greater area or whatever. And there was a house, an actual house that it was labeled as 3 bedrooms, 2 baths. And I was like, I would much rather have 3 bedrooms and 2 baths than 4 bedrooms and 1 bath. And so I was like, it's still like, I was thinking in my heart, like, It's still crazy that somebody would consider renting to this many people. God had other plans. They said, and there was another person that like applied to rent there, and they were like, no, we want you there. So that's where we're at. We are there. Now, I did not know at the time, this place has like no yard. It has a driveway so we can get vehicles off the thing. The house I think is beautiful. I love old Victorian houses. I've shared that video like kind of as we're moving in, if you wanted to go look at that. But I am just like totally amazed at the grace of God. Like, to be able to have a house in the same area that my husband's working, and people asked how far it is from the hospital. Technically, I think it's an hour and 15. You're not going to get here sooner than an hour and a half, just because of the way it is. You have to stop at tolls and traffic and whatever. So I would say an hour and a half to an hour and 45 it usually takes. But we were driving from our old town to the city hospital 2 hours away on a regular basis, no issue at all. Like, to be that close to the hospital, and where we are, there is actually like a small hospital. If we needed to go to the hospital, we could probably walk to it if we wanted to. Maybe maybe like half a mile, I don't know. But not far at all. So if we needed to like go to a small hospital, get stabilized, and get sent to Boston, we could do that. But all his doctors and stuff are close. We're also in an area. Some of the big things were we wanted to be able to have early intervention come out. We wanted to be able to have a company like send oxygen and that type of stuff to the house and be really reliable about that. We know from before that our area was not very reliable. We also were, so those were like huge things. I did not know the beach is like a mile away. It's like really close, which is so super incredible. That's just a blessing in and of itself. And there's lots of like outside things to do. So we are going to learn to live a different life. We don't have a lot of yard. I'm used to just opening the door and being like, okay guys, go out and play, go have fun, do whatever. It's going to be different. It's kind of exciting, right? Like, our lives are a journey. It's one thing at a time. You have to be ready to just roll with the journey. So for 1 year, we're rolling with the journey around here, around that area. I'm already making lists of places that we can go see. Pretend you're a tourist in your area. Somebody told me that when I was younger, and I love that. Pretend you're a tourist in whatever area you're at. I did that when we were in Boston. Pretend you're a tourist wherever you are. We have done so many things. I'm going to do the same for where we're at, and the in between from there to Boston. We can find more things to do, I'm sure of it. And then if we branch out this way, there's tons of things to do. I don't know where the Lord's going to have us. For all I know, we could be like in an RV in the middle of the desert next year. So I don't know where this channel is going to lead you. I don't know where it's going to lead me. I can tell you what I'm going to do in the interim. I'm going to love my kids. I'm going to serve the Lord. I'm going to make a whole lot of food when I get home. I'm going to go grocery shopping. I'm going to homeschool my kids. We're going to go on adventures. I think we're probably going to go back up to the homestead and plant the high tunnel. If you were here last year, you would know. I think we're going to plant the gardens. I really do. I mean, it's from the house, it's probably like 5 hours, I'm thinking. I think like 5 hours. I do think, though, if we plant some things, and this will be good, this will be a good experiment. If we plant some things, I'm saving 10 bales of hay. I'm selling the rest, saving 10 bales of hay to mulch things in. Let's see what we can get, which could be interesting for some people maybe who are watching this, because if I am semi-successful in this, this means that maybe if you don't have land where you're at, but have land or could get or could use land of somebody else's that's further away, it might work. So let's see what we can do. I mean, let's try all these new techniques. Let's try to do something. Let's think through things and like make this happen, because we want to be able to grow that food. I want my kids to be able to have that too, right? So I think that we'll probably do something like that. Want to try to maybe get part of the house ready to rent, potentially. I'm thinking maybe that tiny house that we were doing, I might try to rent that as like a hip camp. Not sure. Look at all these journeys we're going on, guys. And we're probably going to bring little Azariah home. And that's going to be so fun. We're going to do all these adventures together. What a blessing. So that's our life in a long nutshell, because I couldn't make this story small. We're a lot of people. Not much in our household is small. I hope you all have a blessed and wonderful day, and I hope you join us on our journey. Let us know if there's questions that you would like for us to answer. I'm not going to answer about head coverings. I think lots of things like dress and head coverings can get very legalistic, and I don't want people like arguing in the comments about different legalistic things in Christianity, because I think that it's very silly to do that, because to me as a Christian, you can be different denominations if you believe that Jesus is your Lord and Savior. So I don't think that there's like some magic of something. Like me wearing a head covering is not some magical thing. So I'm not going to comment on those things, but you can ask me other questions if you'd like to down in the comments below. And if you ask that one, you can, but I'm not going to answer it. So hope you have a blessed and lovely day. I almost forgot. I was going to answer the question, why am I in a hotel room? So my husband had this weekend off, and so I had put in to see if we could get, this is like a subsidized hotel / apartment through Boston Children's Hospital. So I am sleeping here and he is sleeping at the hospital with Azariah. So that is what's happening, and then I will go tomorrow morning and I will go be with Azariah, and he will go to work. Like he works tomorrow morning or tomorrow afternoon. So yeah, kind of exciting. I'm here making videos. I have some menus and stuff that I need to work out for the kids, which will be super nice just to be able to sit and write the menu out. And then I'm gonna sleep. I am going to sleep. Oh, I'm gonna eat too. I'm gonna eat and sleep. I was with him all day. I left the hospital at like 6 o'clock, so we're not talking about huge amounts of time. We're talking about like a couple hours, and then I'm going to sleep, and then I'm going to see him tomorrow morning, but it's gonna be a lovely couple hours. I'm gonna take a shower too, probably. Hope you all have a blessed night.